Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today for you, I have something a little bit different. If you've watched videos here on the channel before, you will probably have seen that I do a lot of card making videos. Card making is definitely where my skill set lies, and I am trying to branch out a little bit with scrapbooking since that is regaining popularity. But I also do craft fairs, and I love having some 3D items in my wheelhouse. So this is a very sweet, simple treat box. This one is obviously Valentine's Day themed. There is a notch, a thumb notch there, and when you open it up, it holds whatever you like to put inside, but there's also a little treat in the bottom. In that, there is a piece of designer series paper for a little pop of color and just accent inside. So I'm going to go ahead and teach you how to make this sweet little box. You can see it's about hand-sized. So we'll talk a little bit more about what you can put into it in a few minutes, but we're going to go ahead and get started with this. This idea I saw from Julie Baca of Sunny Day Stamping, and I was just really looking for something great for any occasion that doesn't require a lot of time and effort to put together, and I feel that this fit the bill. So to start with, we're going to use a piece of cardstock that is 8.5 by 5.5. This is Moody Mauve. And so you can actually get two of these treat boxes from one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So we're just gonna do one. So 8.5 by 5.5. And I'm going to bring over my paper trimmer scorer. I'm going to use the scoring blade. You could also use your score board if you have one of those. So to start, we are going to score the 8.5 inch side, which is the long side or the landscape side, if you will. And let me slide over a bit this way. So if you're taking notes or screenshots, you can take a picture of that. So on this 8.5 inch side, we're going to score at 1.5 and 3.5. Then at 5, and then I forgot to open my extendable arm there and slide down to 7 and score there as well. So 4 score lines. Then we're going to turn our cardstock so that the portrait side or orientation is up and the 5.5 inch side is at the top. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And then we are going to score at 1.5 inches from either side. So I'm just going to rotate it and do that 1.5 inch side over here. And then finally, I'm going to slide it down to 2 3/4, but I'm not going to score. What I'm going to do is take a pencil and just put a little pencil mark on my cardstock to mark the center of the box. This is where that thumb notch is going to come into play. So that is all the scoring we are going to do. And I'm going to grab a bone folder because what we want to do is have nice burnished edges for our folds. So it doesn't matter which lines you fold on first. You can do the long narrow ones like I'm doing or the other score lines, but regardless, just score, fold and score, fold and score, fold and burnish all the lines. Okay, so once they're all folded and nicely burnished, we can go ahead and start creating the shape of the box. So I have my little pencil line here on the right. We'll do our thumb notch in a little bit, but we're gonna grab our scissors now and cut. So we are going to cut in on the small score lines on all 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. It creates 5 panels. I always want to say 5 score lines, but it's only 4. We're going to cut them on both of those narrow sides. So the second and fourth panels, the ones that are slightly longer, are going to be the flaps for our box. So it's important you cut straight or as straight as possible on those score lines. I know I'm not very good at that, so I always do my best. And you only want to cut up to the parallel score line. So 4 cuts here. And then I'm going to show you a trick that I think just makes the box a little easier to assemble. So you can fold in what is going to be the flaps of your box. So you have 1, 3, 5. What we're going to do is just taper a little bit of the flap to make it easier for gluing. You do not have to do anything specific. I'm just going to take a little bit that you don't have to draw with a ruler. So you want the inside flap and then the middle one, a little bit off of both, like so. And then again, the inside flap. Again, does not have to be perfect, but you will have slight gaps there between, and that'll help us create the box with a little less material. So we're just going to repeat on the other side, cutting as straight as possible on those flaps. And then once we are done that, again, taper every other flap. This is probably the fussiest part. And trust me, it'll be easier if you're not demonstrating live on camera. Okay, so there are our beveled edges. And let's see, I'm going to turn that back around so we're keeping things in the same orientation with that little hash mark there in the middle. Now for your thumb notch, you can use a punch or a die, whatever you have handy. If you're really good at cutting half circles, you could do that. I'm just going to take a punch and kind of line it up in the center there. It doesn't have to be hugely into the flap, just enough to be able to kind of grab to hold the box steady when you open it. This was a 1-inch circle punch that I happen to have in my collection. All right, so that's what we're going to be looking at, and now we're going to assemble the box. I'm going to give you a little tip first. I showed you that little accent piece of designer series paper that kind of pops up and says hello in the box. Now, this piece of paper is 2 7/16 of an inch wide and 1 15/16 of an inch tall. I don't normally work with the 16ths, but it works for this. But as you'll see here, when I lay it on what is going to be the bottom of the box, it barely fits in. Now, when I assembled this box, I managed to put glue on the back and then drop it in, and it does just fit, but I would hate to see you have the paper go wonky and then not be glued in correctly. So I figure work smarter, not harder, right? So we're gonna go ahead and glue it in the bottom of the box before we fold it all together. So for this step, you don't need any special adhesive. I'm just going to use Stampin' Seal. And so as long as my thumb notch is at the top, so we're going to be folding the box this way. If you've got a directional paper, make sure you put it in correctly. And then I'm just going to lay that like that, give it a press. This will make, I feel, your life easier. So then we're going to talk about gluing the flaps. So this is the bottom of the box and these are the sides. So what we're going to do first is fold up the bottom, and the small flaps are going to be inside. That's the key, small flaps always inside. So we're going to start to form the box like this, and then we'll continue. So I'm actually going to flip this over because I want my glue to be here since these are going inside, small flaps inside. Now you can use liquid glue if you like, or you can use tear and tape. I tend not to use liquid glue too much. I make a horrendous mess with liquid glue. We are just not friends. So I'm going to show you the tear and tape method. As far as affixing the box, it's the same. You can put as much glue on the panels as you want. Remember, don't overkill. But I'm using tear and tape and a clear block with a straight edge. And I'm just going to put my tear and tape across the top of the flap and then down the side like so. I give that a little press. And then I work one flap at a time. So here we go. And you can hold the box however it works for you, but I'm going to take the square side of the box and fold in, and I want this to be as straight up and down as possible. A little pinch, and there we go. You can see I've got my nice corner formed. I learned through trial and error where to put the tape, But if you put glue or tape along the side here, and obviously glue, you could do a little bit more. I don't want to inundate this flap with tape, but having the tape here, it really helps seal the box and give me a nice sturdy corner. My first couple of boxes wanted to gape a little bit because I just didn't have the glue or tape quite positioned correctly. So we're just going to repeat on the other side, line that up nice and flat. And there we go. You can see the box is starting to come together. So this is the bottom of the box, and next we're going to glue in kind of this middle portion. Again, small flaps inside. So I'm going to come back here. Now this one I do a little differently, and it can be easier to glue all your tape on at one time. Once you kind of get the feel for this, it's easier to do. As you can see me struggling a little bit here. And I just, for this flap, since you need less of a corner here, oh, my tear and tape is getting all over the place. I'm gonna tear off a piece, that'll help me. I usually do 2 strips, top and bottom, like so. Okay. And give these a little press. And again, I work one side at a time. Peel the backing off. I'm gonna make sure I don't have any glue kind of hanging out that's gonna overhang and get stuck in the box. And again, small flap inside and try to square up those edges best you can. There we go. Repeat on the other side. This one you might have to finagle just a little bit. You can bend it in before you take the tape off, or if you're using glue, just be careful not to smear it everywhere. This is exactly why I don't use glue. Would totally smear it right there. And then nice square, little press, and there we go. That's the basis of our box. So next we're gonna make the lid. So here it's a little bit easier. I'm gonna flip it like so. And again, tape along the bottom and up the side of the small flaps, because as I keep saying, small flaps inside. I always hate it when I make a treat box and I put the flap on the wrong side. That did not work. All right, my tape is unhappy with me. Give that a press. There we go. And one last piece here. I love this method with the clear block and the tape because it just gives me nice clean edges that I have an easier time gripping with my little fingernails. All right, so this one, you can see I do have a little bit overhanging, so I'm just gonna fold that back. And again, small flap inside and square up. And then repeat on your last corner. And you have an absolutely sweet little box. So box bottom, and then a hinged lid that just sits like so. Look at that, isn't that sweet? Not a lot involved, and trust me, once you make one, you can make a bunch more really quickly. It's a lot harder to explain it than it is to make it. All right, so now we're gonna do some decoration. And I did not mention it, but the stamp set that I'm going to use to decorate my box is the online exclusive Iconic Imagery. I'm using the word love, as you can see from my sample. It's a Valentine's Day themed box. And I'm using the coordinating DSP for my decoration. And then what I did was I used the coordinating dies. So this tiny one is perfect for the word love. And then I used this tiny little heart. It would help if you could see it right way around. And then I jumped over to our Hearts of Elegance set, not for any of the wording, although I'll show you a sample with this Be Mine on the top that I think came out cute. But I also used this die cut as well. There's some beautiful ones in this set. You've probably seen me use them before, but this one was perfect for the top of the box. So let's get started with our decorating. What we're gonna do first is we're gonna create a wrap. It's not a belly band. When I first saw the box, I thought it was a belly band. It does not go all the way around the box. It's simply on the lid for a little bit of an accent. So this strip of cardstock is 1 inch wide, and it's 5 5/8 of an inch. So if you want, give yourself a little bit more. It doesn't need to be 6 inches. You'll have a lot to trim off, but you need a little bit more than 5 1/2, which is why I did 5 5/8. And actually, what I found to work best for me would either be liquid glue or the tear and tape again. And I'm gonna do a long strip and get as close to the edge as I can here because I don't want this to peel off the box. So this is our panel for the wrap, or our piece of cardstock for the wrap. I'm going to talk about the panel in a minute. I'm going to press that down and peel off our adhesive strips. And so it doesn't matter which side of the box you start with, right or left, but you've got your thumb hole in the front. Just turn, and on the top of the lid, which you can see because it wants to pull open, center that best you can. I adhere it at the bottom, and I'm going to press as I go. And then you kind of have to be a little gentle but firm at the same time. I'm going to make sure I pull this cardstock flat, and I kind of press with my thumb as I go. You don't want to bend the box out of shape, but you definitely want your wrap to fit the box well. And you can see I've even got a little bit left over here. I might have cut it a little bit longer than 5 5/8. But all you have to do is open the box lid and grab your scissors and trim that little extra piece off. And then when we close the box, look at that, beautiful. So you don't really need a belly band to keep it shut. This really, even with Hershey Kisses in it, I think, if you shake it hard enough, it'll fall open. But I mean, honestly, are we gonna walk around with it upside down? But a cute little accent there. Okay, so to continue, our panel is 2 1/4 by 1 3/4 and fits nicely on the top of the box. So this, I really feel you can use any glue that you like. You don't need the heavy tear and tape. You don't need, you can use liquid glue or a tape runner for this. Press gently but firmly. Okay, next up, designer series paper for the top of the box. I'm using the same print paper that I used for inside the box. This is 2 inches wide by 1 1/2 inch tall. It's going to layer beautifully here. Again, no fancy adhesive needed, whatever your favorite is. Okay, and we'll talk more about decorating when I show you some more of the samples. The great thing is you can decorate these any way you like. So only a tiny little bit of stamping on this. I mentioned that little label. So there we go. And, oh, that phantom piece of tape is trying to hang out. It's only allowed to hang out if it's productive. So I have Cherry Cobbler ink. I don't think I mentioned, Cherry Cobbler is the accent color, and I totally pulled them from the paper. You can see the Moody Mauve and the Cherry Cobbler there. I'm not even going to use my Stampin' Pierce mat, even though this is clear, just because it is a small stamp. And I can pretty much do that without incident. Might be a little off center, but that's okay. So that's the extent of our stamping for today. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that die cut heart that I mentioned earlier. This I'm going to glue on flat and put here. You can obviously add dimensionals to any pieces you want or keep everything flat, depending on the look you're going for. And so I'm just going to take some mini dimensionals. Oop. Ah, things are flying. 1 mini dimensional fits perfectly on the back of that little heart. And then 2 here on my little label. The backing comes off those. And let's see here. You can decorate, as I mentioned, however you like. I could have stopped right there, but I thought this little heart was perfect too and really kind of echoes that paper. And just like that, there is our little simple and easy treat box. And as I mentioned, it holds about a dozen Hershey Kisses. If you want it full to the brim, it holds a dozen. If you want it a little less full, you could put in 10. depending on how they sit in the box, sometimes it feels a little full or overstuffed with 12. Just jiggle it around a little bit. But 12 is a perfect fit, and I love having a dozen Hershey Kisses in the box. You can also put 2 of the Lindor truffles or Lindt truffles in the box. About 4 or 5 Ghirardelli squares, or Ghirardelli, however you pronounce that, will fit in here as well. And of course you could be creative and do peppermints at Christmas or caramels, whatever you want to put inside the box. So a sweet little easy favor box that could be used for any kind of occasion. This would be a fun coworker gift for you to put on a desk around the holidays. Would be a great favor for a baby shower or a birthday party. And I'm going to show you some other examples. So as I mentioned, Valentine's Day. So here are my 2 Valentine samples. Now this one, I wanted to show you, you don't have to use cardstock and DSP. You can mix and match. So here I used DSP for my wrap and then that panel. And then I took a plain piece of cardstock and stamped on it, and then I ran it through an embossing folder, and then I glued it on. And I really like the way that came out. And as I said, that Be Mine stamp is a perfect fit for the top of the box without being too crowded. So great for Valentine's treats. I did step out of the box. I know we're well past the holidays, but I wanted you to see this is lovely for Christmas. Oh, and I forgot to show you the little inside there. We'll come back to this on the Valentine box. And really you could leave this piece out if you wanted. It's really optional, but I think it's fun to have that little accent inside the box after you take the goodies out. And then last but not least, we're coming up on spring, so everybody's thinking spring and babies, whether they be little chicks or bunnies or real babies. So here's a cute little box that would be a great favor for a baby shower. Welcome Sweet Pea, with some of our new designer series paper in there from our spring mini catalog. And then, last but not least, an Easter box. So here I used the rabbit from the Storytime Friends set, colored and die cut. The Easter greetings is from that same stamp set. Lots of S's, I have to be careful. Again, here's DSP on the box, and sweet as can be. So if you don't have a demonstrator you're currently working with and you'd like a paper copy of the catalog, please feel free to comment and I'll reach out to you and get an address so I can mail you a catalog. I love having paper in my hands to drool over. If you're an online shopper, you can check me out at thefaithfulstamper.stampinup.net. And I'm also on Facebook as The Faithful Stamper. You can find me. I do weekly videos and share other projects and incentives there that the company might offer. So I'd love to have you there on the page. So if you have not already subscribed here, I would love to have you as a subscriber. You can click the notification bell and get a little ding each time a video is posted here on the page. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make our little treat box. Take care and happy crafting.